Now in this skill, I have been assuming that as an end user, the SharePoint team sites that you'll be working with will already have been set up for you by somebody else. But to finish this skill, I did just want to quickly show you some different ways that we've got for creating these sites. But don't forget, whether you're able to actually do this or not will depend on what permissions your organisation has got set up. So from the SharePoint start screen, you might well have this create site button up at the top left hand corner. So let's try it out. And yes, we're going to create a team site as opposed to a communication site. This is where we give it a name. So maybe we want a nice site for UK interns, something like that. And when you type in a name, it's going to check that that site name is available, just in case something else already has the same name. You should probably put in a site description so that when people are searching for sites, they know what the purpose of this is. And then you can control, well, who can actually access this site? Is it going to be a private site where you identify particular members? But I'm going to say, no, it's going to be a public site. Set your language and choose next. Now, because I'm setting this up, I'm going to be an owner of the site, but it is good practice to add an extra owner, just in case, I get run over by a bus or something and it becomes inconvenient to try and manage the site. And I can, as it says here, also add more people later. But if I just click finish on that, and it might take a moment or two to create it, but that really is all we need to do. There is some guidance here about browsing templates to change the look and feel of the site, and I will leave you to explore that. But what I wanted to show you is that, yes, we can see that this looks exactly like the site that we've been working with throughout this whole skill. I've got this news area up here, I've got these quick links, I've got documents. Down the left-hand side here, I've got these links that we have already explored. It's a very standard look and feel, and you already know how to go ahead and edit it and whatnot. So yes, it's easy enough to do. But also, do you remember in the last video, we took a quick look at the OneDrive app because that did give us quick access to our SharePoint document libraries. And you'll also see down here that there's an option here to create a new shared library. So you might be thinking, well, yeah, this is quite handy. I'm going to create a new shared library because there's a particular group of people I want to share some files with. I'm just going to create a new shared library. So I'm going to do that. And this time, let's call it Trainer Conference. And again, it's checking that the name is available. Let me add just a couple of people. So maybe let's add Joni and Miriam, my favourite characters from my demo environment. And I'm going to choose create. And what that actually will do is, yes, it will create a new shared library, but it also, in fact, creates a whole new SharePoint site. So sure enough, I am in the OneDrive app at the moment looking at the document bit of that whole new SharePoint site. But if I kind of go up a level, as it were, to have a look at the SharePoint site, then it's just the same as we saw a second ago. It's a whole brand new site with the same guidance about, browsing templates and whatnot. And it's the same layout of the team site that we created a second ago. And yet another way of creating a SharePoint site is from Microsoft Teams. Now, if I just go into Microsoft Teams, when you create a new team in Microsoft Teams, it automatically creates an underlying SharePoint site. So you can see here, I've got a social team, and this was created within Microsoft Teams itself. And you can see I set up a couple of channels there. It has a default general channel, but I also set up a book club channel and a sports channel. And when that team was set up in Microsoft Teams, well, we've already kind of dived into it once or twice. So if I go back to SharePoint, there's that social team site that was automatically created when the team was set up in Microsoft Teams. And again, it's just the same layouts, news, quick links. And look at the document library. What will happen is it'll give you a separate folder in that document library for each channel in the Microsoft team. So it is so well integrated, isn't it? But sometimes when I show people this, maybe they've been using SharePoint for a while because Microsoft Teams is relatively new. They might say to me, well, hang on a minute, I've got this consumer tech SharePoint site that's pretty well established. I wish that we had created that from Teams so that I had a consumer tech team and this was the underlying SharePoint site for that team. But I've kind of done it the other way around. I started in SharePoint. But we can create a new team from an existing SharePoint team site. Whew. So in Microsoft Teams again, down the bottom here, and again, I am relying on you having the appropriate permissions to be able to do that. But if I choose the option to create a team, so let me click that button there, and I'm going to create it from an existing group. Because when we create a SharePoint team site, It generates a Microsoft 365 group, with the shared inbox and the shared calendar that we talked about in other videos. And notice that you can only create a new team from a group that you already own. So that's why I'm logged in as me this time rather than Miriam, because I was the site owner for that consumer tech team site that we've been using throughout this skill. So if I choose that, there's that consumer tech site. Let me click create, and this does take a minute or two to actually create it, so don't be alarmed if it flashes and whirs for a little bit before it does it. But it seems to think it's done something, so if I look on my list of teams in Microsoft Teams, yes, there's that consumer tech site, there's the general channel ready for us to start a new conversation, and if I were to, let's add a channel, maybe for us to discuss new products, something like that, and click add. That's now been added as an extra channel in Microsoft Teams, but if I go back to the underlying SharePoint site and take a look at the document library, look at that. It's automatically created a folder for me that aligns with that new channel. So that means within Microsoft Teams, any files that we post into that new products channel will automatically get stored in that corresponding folder in the document library. Wow. It's so well integrated, isn't it? There is so much to learn, but I hope you've got a really good feel for what SharePoint can offer us as end users in this skill. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.